Crosby versus Bedard, round 2. This time it's in Pittsburgh for all the marbles. It's not really for anything, actually, but we're going to preview the game anyway. Coming up next on the CHGO Blackhawks pregame show. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks postgame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use the code CHGO365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Jay Zawoski. That's Mario Tirabassi.
Hello.
Sarah's over there in the very tiny but cozy Studio B. I like Studio B.
The tiny desk.
Yeah, the tiny desk concert. I'm going to stand up here and sing some Chapel Roan.
The studio's great. The technology sometimes is not great in here, but it's just bad luck, Studio B.
A little behind the curtain, everybody. There you go.
I do like Studio B. I feel condensed.
I'm not always conscious of my gut in this studio.
Yeah, well.
Whereas I get to look at myself in that chair in the other room, and I'm always like, maybe if I pull my shirt.
You're sitting up, and you got a table, computer in front of you. It's a good gut hider.
We were talking. Did I say post game? I must have said post game. It's pregame.
Pregame.
But I was laughing the other day as a big guy. You know, always conscious of what's going on down here. And the Hawks showed a guy on the scoreboard that was a large gentleman, and the camera zoomed out, and he just like tugged on his shirt. And I'm like, buddy, I feel you. I was waiting for the shirt tug to come.
You know exactly what he was thinking.
It doesn't help. Even though we all do it, it doesn't help. Anyway.
It's the illusion of the help.
That's not why you're here. You're here to talk Blackhawks and Penguins. And that's what Anders Sorensen's going to do. He met the media this morning, and here he is, courtesy of the Chicago Blackhawks.
There were a couple, he's made maybe smarter decisions about when to take a risk and when not to.
Yeah, exactly. I think you answered your own question there. No, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. It just settled in a little bit more composed in stressful situations where he doesn't overreact, so that's good.
Have you talked to him about that?
In
Each situation, what to do?
Not in each situation, but just in general, right? His just quiet down a little bit defensively, utilize his skating when opportunities are there, but let's let the game come to you a little bit.
Is there a balance for you? Obviously, the Bruins last season, I guess, playing him down the stretch, and also, obviously the priorities also the young guys. How do you go about it this last week? Yeah,
it's a very good question. I think it's obviously the circumstances are not as easy as they look maybe from the outside, but we're going to get him in here. Obviously, he's been a big part of what we've done here all year. So he'll play, and then, we only have so many games left. But, he's done a lot for us, so we want to make sure he gets in here.
Have you had similar caliber, conversations with Alec and Martinez, and just, his health obviously depends on that, but just getting him in and maybe down the stretch?
Yes, yeah. There's a plan.
With Vlasic, he says that he hasn't played as consistently, as well defensively as he would have liked to. Is that a product of the greater competition that he's facing this year versus last year?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. You mean like going up against other teams' top lines and whatnot? Yeah, a little bit of that. And I think as a group, it's not just him, right? We've struggled. We've given up a little bit too much. Not lately, but, last month or so, right? But I think with him, it's been, it's a long season. It's, and the wear and tear, and he's a big body. And I think the last game was much better, though, for him in terms of that. I thought his competitiveness and if you watch that last goal, I think he makes a really, really strong competitive play in the D zone that creates Mickey's goal there. So that was good. Not the last one, but the one before.
To your point, he said that in January he was feeling worn down and fatigued. Did you notice that? And is that just something that players have to go through at his stage in his career?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, you noticed it because of his posture. He's a big, tall guy, so you can tell when he gets a little fatigued. And he played a lot of minutes at that point, too. It was a lot on the power plays. I think he was upwards of 23, 24 minutes every night. And that, as a young player, learning how to handle that is a big part of it, right?
With having so many defensemen here, is there a point this week where you want to send guys back to Rockford, or do you have a sense? Is there a plan with that too? Just getting some of those guys back in the Ice Hogs?
Plan. There's a plan.
I guess you can't divulge it.
Yeah. No, we'll see what happens. The next, yeah.
It looked like Brody wasn't here. He hasn't played in a while. So,
Yeah.
What is the situation with him?
Yeah, he's been out here for a little bit, so that's he's not on this trip, and then go from there.
Go from there means buyout in the summer.
Yeah, go from there. There's 4 games left after tonight. So
Yeah.
that's where they'll go from there.
Hey, honestly, hat tip to him. He's a veteran. He's not played well for the Hawks. There's no mystery there, but he could go out there and be a problem, and he hasn't. And so thanks for your service. Give you the old salute, and free to negotiate wherever you want this summer. Ben Pope sort of said this morning, seems like a buyout is likely for him. So
Yeah, and we've kind of figured that might be the outcome at the end of this year.
not to pat myself on the back, but I will. I said that after Game 1 in Utah. That if you want to go back and listen to the post-game show from Game 1, I think I said it in the first segment that TJ Brody will be bought out by the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I think
So look at me knowing stuff.
Yeah, well, about the guys that are playing tonight, it's the same lineup
Yeah.
that beat the Penguins on Sunday. Spencer Knight is in goal. So I've introduced this. I'll go through the lines.
Do it.
Top line is centered by Connor Bedard with Ryan Donato on his left, Ilya Mikheyev on his right. Mikheyev searching for tying his career high of 21 goals. He could do it tonight or surpass it tonight. That'd be fun. Frank Nazar centers the second line with Teuvo Teravainen and Tyler Bertuzzi. Oliver Moore on the third line with Landon Slager and Phil Kershev. And Joe Veleno is your fourth line center with Lucas Reichel and Nick Foligno. Top pair defensemen, Alex Vlasic and Sam Renzel. Second pair, Kevin Korchinski with Connor Murphy. Third pair, Wyatt Kaiser and Artem Levshunov. Again, I said Spencer Knight in goal. Again, that smells like a winning lineup if I've ever smelled
Hell
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
It won last game, so technically you're correct.
Yeah, and that's the best way of being correct.
It's going to be at worst 500.
Sure.
No,
yeah.
but I mean, look, I'm glad to see the same lineup. I'm glad to see they're not trying to shoehorn veterans in. I think Alec Martinez could certainly play if they want, if they want him to.
If they feel like he's healthy and ready to go, I mean, why they have 2 more home games? No, I think
one
just
more.
one. Just one more. So yeah, why not? The last home game, I feel like by the time that rolls around, that's, I think, coming up.
Next home game is Saturday, April 12th against the Jets.
So yeah, I feel like that could be a game between now and Saturday where, as they said in the pregame, the question was brought up about sending guys back down to Rockford. Between now and Saturday, we might see that happen because Rockford has a handful of games left here in the regular season as they lock up the 5th seed in the Central Division. And then maybe that Saturday home game is where you see Maroon back in the lineup, Martinez back in the lineup, maybe Brody, I don't know, we'll see. But you give those guys that last home game and then ride out the last 2 games of the year are on the road. So then you, at that point, the guys that can go back to Rockford and play for them in the postseason, Del Mastro, Korchinski, Levshunov, and Doc, if he's healthy, they can go back down to Rockford and pick up the Ice Hogs from there.
That's fine. I would like to see the young kids, as many as possible, play that final home game.
Sure. Yeah. No, I there's definitely nothing wrong with that. And yeah, I mean, personally, I would also too like to see that selfishly, but I think maybe you see, a bone thrown to the veterans. I especially Pat Maroon. I feel like Pat Maroon, he'll probably find his way back into the lineup for that last game. That'll be his last home game he ever plays in his career for Chicago now. But yeah, I mean, I still would love to see the young guys keep rolling the momentum that they've started. But I do feel like my gut tells me it's probably going to be give some of these guys one last home game.
Yeah, I think Maroon especially, probably deserves that too. So, yeah, there you have it. And, kind of not a lot of definitiveness from Sorensen on that regard, saying, we'll see what happens. Wink.
There is a plan.
I hope so. we've been meaning to get to that.
There's
yeah.
concepts of a plan, right?
So
I've heard
do
that
us a
before.
favor if you've not done it yet. Hit the like button for us. Make sure you are subscribed to our page as well. A couple of things to check out at allchgo.com. I have my new Blackhawks beat about Connor Bedard up there today, and believe sort of a sale still going on, kind of, sort of. I think it's kind of. I might be wrong. Yep, a little bit. So check that out. And after the game, I believe, if there's enough interest, I'm going to be in the Discord for Diehards Only, doing a little Q&A as I drive home. So check that out. And a little note about tonight's game. A couple of people asking. It is on the U, which is a free channel. It's channel 26. If you got the old UHF TV, I'm sure it's similar to that on your antenna. But if you've got Xfinity, you have the U. The reason that's happening is because you have the Bulls, Sox, and Hawks playing simultaneously. So
Yeah.
I would not expect that to be the norm, but that's the plan tonight. So you should be able to find that fairly easily. Just talking to your remote. WCIU. Boom.
Yeah,
You'll
be
find
able
the
to
Hawks
find it.
game.
And if you can't, send your complaints to Joe Brand.
Yes, it's his fault. It is.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this game tonight. I really like the way they played against the Penguins last game, especially, had a little bit of late, like, oh, here it goes again. We're kind of losing it, and they bounced back, finished strong. Had a lot of guys, like we mentioned, the end of that game, Tyler Bertuzzi lays out, pokes the puck out of the zone. Guys were playing hard, and I think at this point of the season, the young guys are going to be playing hard. It's a good sign to me that you still have veterans like Bertuzzi who are most nights giving everything they've got, regardless of where the team's at in the standings.
Yeah, I think there's, you talk about it a lot in situations like this where the Blackhawks are, it's, you find something to play for, you got to play for each other, play for pride. And I feel like you're getting some of that from some of these veterans. It'd be easy for these guys to kind of pack it in after the season that they've had and just kind of coast these final few games. But I do feel like the veteran group is still giving that full effort, which you have to expect out of them. That's what being a professional is all about. And then, the young guys, like I think they're riding high on this opportunity to get significant minutes in the NHL. And, for some guys like Renzel and more, they're coming in off of their college year and they've got that boost of, adrenaline of being in the NHL. And hopefully now a few games in, they kind of start to feel a little bit more comfortable than they did. But you saw it in the game on Sunday where that effort level and that speed that this team has now is kind of able to overcome some of the mistakes and actually give themselves a bit of an advantage over some teams that they just didn't have early on in the season, where it was they weren't a very fast team, so you're slower to pucks, you're slower into battles. You're not able to get that extra step on a defender on a potential breakaway chance. Now this team has guys that can do that, and that gives you, that can overcome even a talent gap. Being faster is a big advantage.
Well, you brought up a good point to PD yesterday, and if you missed that, go back and check out the whole conversation. We also have like an 8-minute breakdown of Sam Renzel on our YouTube page right now. That's even more than what was on the show yesterday. Mm-hmm. There's another one coming tomorrow for Levshinov, and we're going to do Nazar and more next week with PD. But your question of how much of it is when you see a young guy come into the league, like how much of it is just getting by on adrenaline, and like, is it a threat that wears off and guys look normal? I don't think we're there with Renzel or Moore yet, but you wonder about like Levshinov. Is that adrenaline wearing off for him, and is he settling in, that sort of thing? Yeah. That's one of there's a couple things we're sort of watching here at the end of the year. And that to me is, how do these guys finish the season? And, are we going to see an emotional and physical drop off as the adrenaline wears off?
Yeah, I hope not, because I think, when you have that youthful energy, I mean, a lot of these guys have talked about how the young guys coming into the locker room have changed the dynamic, and the veterans are playing off it as well. Like when you have that energy, it really is infectious. So hopefully, they're able to feed off of each other and keep that going. And, for guys like Nazar and Levshinov and Slaggert, like this is the most hockey they've played in one season. So you wonder where they are physically with it. But I mean, if you see the way Frank Nazar has been playing recently, I don't feel like he's getting worn down physically at the end of this season. Landon Slager too, like he had a breakaway chance. He's continuing to play fast and battle, so I don't think he's feeling the rigors of the season as much. Levshinov too feels like he's handled it pretty well. So, I think the guys are. I feel like a lot of it is just kind of talent coming out of them rather than just going off of the adrenaline rush. I
agree with you, and maybe you can write that off like game 1. Game 2, I think we saw a little bit of it with Oliver Moore in his first game. Second intermission last game, Troy Murray was talking about that as we were coming back here. Just saying like Moore, the first game was just 100, just mashing the R trigger, going turbo all day. And just now that he's got some shifts under his belt, a game under his belt, 2 games under his belt, he sort of slowed down and, use the speed as more of a weapon than an all-time 100% all or nothing sort of a thing.
Yeah.
But it's what we're talking about here. Like, when you're looking at the bottom of your roster, like how bad is the bottom? And I think when you look at the way the season began, the way the roster was to start the year, and now, even though a lot of the guys the Hawks have on the roster now are unproven, that pedigree is there. The first round pedigree for Nazar and Moore and Renzel and Levshinov, like they're first round picks for a reason. Maybe Renzel was a bit of a reach, fine, but it seems to be working out. Everyone's raving about the kid.
Yeah, I mean, it was when he was picked, it was just like, oh, this is a project pick, and if he hits his ceiling, he could be really good, and we'll see what he looks like as a pro in 4 years. And here we are 2 years later, and he's stepping into the NHL and like first handful of games. Yeah, it's a small sample size, but he's been doing really well. And I think, you see all the tools that, he's shown. You go back and listen to what, Petey had to say about him. Like all those tools are there, and it's just now you get to mold them at the professional level. So, I mean, it's exciting to see. And, I think too, like this is a team that has really evolved as the season has gone on, and they started the year 5th oldest. And I looked it up the other night. Their current roster is the 3rd youngest in the league. And I'd have to go back and do a ton of research that I'm not going to do. But that to me seems like one of the biggest changes in a single season for a team.
Oh my God.
That I could even think of. To go from 5th oldest to 3rd youngest. That's quite the turnover. And you go into next season and you kind of, pick out which guys probably fit into the mold. Like I feel like, there's probably going to be a splash trade acquisition or free agent signing. I would assume that's, top of the agenda for Kyle Davidson, but
there has to be because they got to get to the cap floor.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that too. But I feel like, talent for talent with the roster, like there's not a lot of spots that are necessarily going to be all that wide open. So you're going to have a lot of competition in camp. And it starts now with some of these guys of, can you pencil yourself into a spot next year going into training camp, and can you turn that pencil into ink in these last handful of games?
I think a lot about, especially lately, how are they going to get to the cap floor? What do they got to spend, like $60 million?
Yeah.
Something crazy to get to the cap floor.
I mean, and yeah, if you buy out Brody, that takes some money off of your hands. But Arvid Soderblom likely gets a new contract. You might bring in
a
big free agent. You might re-sign Ryan Donato. You might acquire a guy. They have Shea Weber's contract, so that
helps a little bit
to help.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's going to be some finagling needed, but I feel like they're going to figure it out. And you're going to have a couple guys that are on entry level deals that weren't here this year. So that's extra money. It's small, obviously, but I think they'll figure it out. They obviously have to.
Yeah, they have to. I'm just looking at, possibilities here. Athanasiou will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Kurashev is an RFA,
back.
But doesn't feel
like
like
maybe they bring him back, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like it.
Let's say Donato gets 4.5.
Sure.
Pat Maroon's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone they can sign early but still that doesn't go towards next year's
No,
cap.
that'll be on the next.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to acquire some big names, and I don't know. That's a tough. It's hard to find that level of money without having some really, really bad contracts in their hand. That sort of leads like to the Brossoit stuff we've been talking about. Like, there's really no use in buying him out. You've got nothing but cap space. You've got to get to the floor. See what you have, and if he's comes out and he's good, fine, trade him. Let him play well and trade him, or trade Soderblom with his value high, because you probably feel like after next season, Camesso might be NHL ready. He's been playing really well in Rockford.
Yeah.
I love Soderblom, but I don't know. It's I'm very glad I'm not in charge of managing this cap, because it's very complicated at this point.
Yeah, I mean, with Brossoit, like, you can keep him on, but you're not going to carry 3 NHL goalies for a elongated part of the season. Like, even just when Mrazek, Knight, and Soderblom were here, it was awkward just to kind of have the 3, and you're just like, well, one guy's not even going to dress, and like these all 3 guys deserve to be in the NHL. So like if you start the season with those 3, Brossoit, Soderblom, and Knight, and they all look like they belong in the NHL, well, then you're in a spot where you kind of have to get rid of somebody who might be playing well, or you send a guy down that doesn't want to go down. Like, it's just it gets you into a little bit of a weird situation. So I'm fine with seeing what you have in Brossoit, because he lost the entire year to injury.
Yeah.
So see what he can look like in training camp. But
yeah, and trade one of them before
if you're
this
bringing
regular
him,
season starts.
If you're bringing him back, you have to have a quick plan, I think, for the 3 of them to get down to these are our 2. And then, you have Camesso as well.
There's a quote, chat rather, from Brian Magnuson, says, have to try to get at least 2 legitimate top 6 forwards via trade or free agency. You can't run this forward group out there next year and expect much of an improvement. I agree with that. I think standings wise, if you roll out the same group, which they won't, it will be difficult for them to make much of a dent. I just think it will look better and feel better. Kind of like the way people talked about the San Jose Sharks this year, of like, look how fun and look how young and look how entertaining they are.
Yeah.
And they're worse than the Hawks in pretty much every category.
Yeah.
But the air quotes vibes are different around them. If they go all young, just look at what they've done since the deadline. Look how different of a team they've been since the deadline. They're more entertaining. The games are closer. Yeah, they're still ultimately losing, but the feels at the end of the game are not like, oh my God, thank God that's over.
Right. Yeah.
It was just 60 minutes of misery. It's been better than that lately. So I do think it's a safe assumption that they're going to add at least 2 forwards. And I don't think a veteran defenseman is off the table either. I don't think they want to go with Connor Murphy, Alex Vlasic, and a bunch of kids. As ready as they think guys are, you might have some guys who over-ripen in the AHL, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You can do that. But I don't know. They got to spend money somewhere, and hopefully it's not just to spend it and figure it out. All right, in 2 years we'll buy this guy out and buy this guy out.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to get in that habit.
No, because if you don't want to muddy things up with guys that are short term, like guys that they're out of here at the end of the year, like one year deals or anything like that. Like if they do bring in a veteran defenseman, I hope it's not somebody that would be like Alec Martinez, where it was just like 1 year and a bloated contract just to give them money, because then it kind of feels like, what's the point? The point is getting these young guys up here and getting them time and ready and developing them. So like if you bring somebody in like that, it's just like you're just cashing checks at that point.
So are you willing to sign a veteran?
I'm willing to
in their let's use a name that keeps coming up is Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that, because if you're bringing in a veteran or you're trading for a guy, like, you want him to be an impact player, because I feel like you can have some guys that maybe play third pair or third or fourth line and maybe give them a little bit of shelter for young players. But if you're bringing in veterans, I'd want them to be impact. I want, if it's a forward, shoot for the moon with a guy like Mitch Marner. But if you
trade for somebody,
and if you land around, Sam Bennett, Nick Ehlers, Brock Besser,
it's a better team.
That's completely fine. Those
you're adding a line of top 6 forwards.
Yeah. Well, one or two of those guys, like, that improves the team, and those are guys that you play in the top 6. Same thing with Ekblad. Like, if you sign him, he's playing in the top 4. Like, he's clearly going to be a important player, and he's going to be playing important minutes. So that's what I would be more in line with, is like, if you're going to spend money, spend it on someone who you know is going to play in those roles, not we're just going to overpay a veteran just to be here. Like, I want the Blackhawks to be beyond that part of their process.
Yeah, I was checking Ekblad as a right shot, so you would theoretically have.
I mean, he could be your number 1 on the,
you
on
could
the right
have,
side.
You could have Ekblad, Levshinov, if you think he's ready, which I think is still in question, and Murphy, or Ekblad, Murphy, Rinzel.
Or Rinzel, or yeah.
I mean, but you're already putting somebody down that you like,
that
you think might be ready.
Yeah, I mean,
they're too good.
Yeah, again, it gets into the spot where then, you talk about, is Nolan Allen full time in Rockford next year because you brought in a guy like Aaron Ekblad, or Ethan Del Mastro's down there, or is Korchinski down there again? Like, or does Levshinov play another full season in Rock? Like,
yeah,
it does kind of knock those guys down a bit, but we're not at a point where all those guys are fully developed NHL guys yet. Like, you could say, like,
I have no problem with any of it.
Play in the AHL top pair. Korchinski was playing like 24 minutes in the AHL. You do that again for one more year at a guy who's 21, 22. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So, and Connor Murphy's a guy that his contract's over at the end of next season. Like, that's a spot that could open up down the road for one of these young guys to come in.
I don't think it has to be all of them next year. And Meekster asked, he said basically, like, there's so many guys playing well that seemingly have earned spots. Who starts next year in Rockford? I think you named them. Like, from what I've seen from Korchinski, he hasn't been bad. He's been better than last year, but I still don't think that he's he's NHL. Like, you're seeing that with Rinzel. To me, Rinzel looks NHL ready, and I'm pretty comfortable with him. Yeah. I know it's a small sample size, but
if he plays the final 4 games of the year like he did the first 4 games of his season in the NHL, like, that's a pretty good, pretty encouraging sample size.
But this is when we're talking about acquiring talent, and people have been kind of saying, like, hey, you guys are really trying to trade Kevin Korchinski. We're not, but it's a valuable piece, and there's a logjam. And that's, if you're trying to get, like, let's say they want to trade for Elias Pettersson, whether you love that or not, it's just an example. It's going to take somebody like Korchinski to get that done.
Right, yeah.
So I'm glad I'm not Kyle Davidson right now.
Yeah.
Even though he's younger and more handsome than me.
And richer.
He's got good hair, too.
Yeah.
I used to. Not anymore. All right, we got a super chat, $2 from Captain Cormick, who says Nolan Allen and a first for David Pasternak.
Yes.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, that sounds great. I don't know if Boston would go for that, but I'll take it.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. We should also mention the big hockey news of the day. Ivan Demidov is headed to Montreal. That deal is signed. SKA said, thank you. Go play in the NHL.
Season ended, so
yeah. The Hawks play Montreal.
No reason to be petty and hold him to the end of May.
Yes, the Hawks play Montreal. Let me get the schedule. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Is it it's Monday, the 14th.
Monday.
Will he be in the NHL by then? Because you got to deal with visas and all that sort of stuff, and we've seen that take some time. But I have a feeling that the Montreal Canadiens have a little bit of power to get that thing done quickly. So
yeah,
that could be interesting. Demidov versus Levshinov.
That would be fun. That'd be a fun game on Monday. I mean, it's already going to be a fun game because Montreal is like, they feel like that team that the Blackhawks could be next year.
Think next year?
Potentially. Like, if you
depends on who you bet. I mean,
if you have a great offseason,
yeah,
and then you have some of the progression from some of these guys we're talking about, Rinzel, Nazar, all those guys, they play a full year again next year and they get it in the NHL. Like,
let's say ideal offseason, Marner, Besser, and Ekblad added to this team. And then you've got...
If you're getting Marner, give me Sam Bennett instead of Besser.
Fine. I would prefer that too.
Yeah.
Fine. So Marner, Bennett, and Ekblad come to this team next year. Are they a playoff team? When you look at the West, that's tough.
It's tough.
That's tough, but
you'd have to bank on a lot of the young guys hitting that next step, and not some of them may overachieve next year, some might underachieve. Like, it's just, you never know.
And eventually this Bedard breakout season is coming.
Yeah,
it's happening. Like,
sure,
sophomore slump,
break out from being your team's leading point scorer as a teenager. For
yes,
two
but I'm
seasons.
talking about
yes.
point per game and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I think next year, we have all offseason to talk about this, but as of today, April 8th, I believe next year the Hawks will be closer to Utah, where they're end of the year, they're 5 or 6 points out of a wild card, but they were competitive all year, ups and downs, young guys developing, and then in 2 years, you start talking about like a Montreal sort of a thing where they secure a playoff spot and probably get waxed in the first round, but they're there, and that the next step has begun. So we're on our way.
Oh,
no kidding!
Nice. How about that?
I won the hoops. I owe it all to Sarah,
the person who knows the least. Who on last night's show we said, "Hey, the big game," and you said,
yeah, give me the red team.
Those guys.
And I was just fortunate to know that a red team made it. Hey, you play the chalk.
That's good.
That's how you win.
Yeah, don't pick with your heart.
Play the chalk and you win. Very exciting. All right, wow, look at me.
Yeah, well, you're getting dinner.
How much is that?
I already have dinner. I don't know. Should I look?
Yeah.
Well, you're getting.
I have no idea what I won.
You're getting a second dinner.
That's every day.
Wait, so did you win first
$50?
place?
Wow.
Did you win first place?
Second place.
Oh, second place.
I had Duke.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid Duke. John Shire, right?
Yes.
Look at me. See? I know hoops. I'll be on the Bulls show next. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Puck's dropping soon. We'll talk to you post-game on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast, powered by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.